Hey guys, oh my aching back. I have, I think, 2 more trips to get everything from that estate, from the garage into the basement. I want to do another video to start getting through this stuff. There's still so much to look at. Now, I'd love to do some of this equipment, and we will, but I don't know. I'm not familiar with this stuff. I need to research it a bit, but I would like to start tackling some of this stuff. So, let's look at some vacuum bulbs. Some of you asked what was in the plastic bins in a photo I posted. Tubes. We don't just have vacuum tubes, we've also got light bulbs and indicator lamps and some specialty lamps and all manner of interesting vacuum bulb related things. So, since I've got a new vacuum tube testing, examining workbench, let's do the tubes. First off, I should point out that our lighting is coming courtesy of a vintage lamp from this estate. Now, I want to temper your expectations a little bit. This gentleman, Mr. Lil, did not restore antique radios or TVs or any such devices to the best of my knowledge, and from what I've seen of these are mostly tubes to keep his equipment running. He maintained this stuff really well, and they probably weren't antiques to him. This was just his test equipment. So there won't be any antique globe tubes or high-end audio output tubes or anything like that, I don't think. I haven't looked through everything by any means. So let's start out, well, with this box. This box intrigues me a little bit because he was definitely a ham radio operator. Oops. Pardon the ductwork. He was definitely a ham radio operator. And he had his shack down there, an antenna on the back. Someone had already spoken for, I believe, the transmitter. I never saw it. I don't know what type he had. I have the receivers. But I am curious because I did find boxes of tubes that would be suitable for a transmitter. Things like 866 mercury arc rectifiers, which are typically found in vintage transmitting gear. And these tubes, 829Bs, aka 3E29s. And yes, I know you can make audio amplifiers out of these, but that was not their original intended purpose. The original intended purpose is their VHF amplifiers, dual triodes. Rather nifty tubes. I think I've got some porcelain sockets for these somewhere. 5648, I believe that'll be the 48th week of 1956, because you couldn't be the 56th week of 1948. So twin triodes, meant for VHF operation. I don't know the exact frequency range, but let's say some tens of megahertz probably. Not a ton of power, maybe 5 watts per triode, something like that. And I will give credit to the audiophiles out there and the tube amplifier enthusiasts, because they have found creative ways to use just about any tube you can imagine. They use damper tubes for rectifiers, for their tube amps. Anything that can do any type of amplification, they found a way to make an audio amp out of it. I think that'd be the primary use for these, because, you know, so I'm curious what his rig was, because these are pretty obsolete. An amplifier, or sorry, a transmitter that would use these would be pretty crusty. But by no means useless. It'd be cool to see one working. Let's see, we also have a bunch of VT136s, aka 1625s. I think I know what these are. No, I'm wrong. I'll have to look up the data on that. Basically, anything with like a VT on it that says like U.S. Army Signal Corps, you know that these are vintage radio-related transmitter receiver type tubes. You know, I'm going to get some better lighting down here because I can see that we're getting a bit of a shadow. Let there be light. Actually, it was plenty bright for me before. It's just that my camera's light sensitivity isn't as good as the human eye. Where were we? Yes. VT136 1625. Right, yeah, I knew the 1625 sounded familiar. I have a whole mess of these. It is an obsolete, archaic beam tube, I think related to the 807. What's odd on these is they run on a 12.6 volt filament, and they have the old style base, 7-pin base. Not much use. Well, again, it's only going to be vintage gear that uses these, and primarily a vintage transmitter. So I know, Crimea River. I have more tubes that I don't know what to do with. Yes, I'm sure you can make an audio amplifier out of them. I like to keep tubes to keep vintage gear running rather than build new gear around it. They will never make these tubes ever again. Some tubes, yeah. These, no. Let's see, what else do we have? We have a whole bunch of 6146s. These are relatively modern looking. These boxes are from the 70s, I would guess. 6146. I believe these are also beam power tubes of some sort. I think I've... let's ask the internet. Yeah, they are beam power tubes, and I'm sure you can make an amplifier out of them. But they are intended for CW operation up to 60 megahertz for 85 watts or 175 megahertz 50 watts. Just looking up some quick data off of my phone. So again, transmitter tubes. And I have no doubt that can be repurposed. Let's see, so we have a bunch of those. More 8298, which I think is also, I think it's just another number for these. Some of these tubes have different designators, but the same functionality, yeah. 8298. Sometimes they have slightly different characteristics. Or actually, no, I can see on my phone they have a 6146 and an 8298 on the same data sheet. So why does that happen? Oh, different manufacturers might introduce it, and they give it their own designator, and eventually they get lumped together. Or maybe the original versions had slightly different characteristics, but over time, as they revised them and made A and B versions, they became essentially identical. Some 6Y6. These are definitely used. Don't see a number. This might be a 6L6. Yeah, 6L6GC. Let's see, there's some other 6L6s in here. Another 6L6GB. Guys. Oh, 2E26s. Yeah, more, I believe, VHF type amplifiers. Another 1625, old type. I say that because of the base material. It's kind of higher quality than the usual Bakelite base material when it's brown color, I do believe. What's this little guy? A 6J5. Oh, those are nice tubes to have. Those are Triodes, and I believe they are prized amongst audiophiles for their characteristics. It's a super silver tone 6J5G. That's an oldie. And just a random 6BQ7. It must have fallen in here. Alright, so that is that box. Basically, transmitter tubes with a few used audio output tubes in the mix. Oops, almost missed the 832As, which are similar to the 829s I started out this video with. Just a shorty dual triode. Get a nickname for these. I don't know if they were baseball tubes or Martian tubes or something like that. I mean, hey, I've seen some very cool modern audio amplifiers built with these are on top, and yes, they are definitely, they are eye candy, and I put a blue LED underneath them because why not, to make them glow as they were never intended to. But, you know, again, the equipment they were used in, yeah, I like to use these in the original equipment, but the original equipment that these go with is, there just isn't that much out there. It's just kind of archaic, and a lot of it got stripped down and broken down, so what are you going to do? Next up, we have a tray of tubes. These are all 12-volt miniatures, and more particularly, these are mostly members of the 12A family. 12AT7, 12AU7, 12AX7. And I understand these are very desirable, at least 12AX7s to the audio crowd, but they're also used in test equipment. They're also used in some TVs and probably some radios, so I definitely have a use for these. No question about that. What are they used for in TVs? Often sync separator, the sync clipper, sometimes video amp. I've seen like the 12AU7 used for a 2-stage video amp, so I will definitely find a use for these. Next up, a random tray of 6-volt tubes. Some definitely more useful than others. For example, there are a bunch of 6AF4s. These are used in UHF tuners for a high frequency local oscillator, for an amplifier, mixer. Not very useful. 6AK5s I think are used a lot in tuners. 6AL5s, tons of things use these as a little tiny dual diode used for detectors and all manage of low power rectifiers. Definitely these are mostly TV tubes. 6DR7, vertical tube, 6BQ7, I think that's used in tuners as well. But I bet he has gear that uses these, because they're definitely using test equipment too, like a 6C4. The mech TV I'm currently working on uses that for the local oscillator and the tuner, but there's plenty of test equipment that uses that for an RF signal generator. Next up, let's look at one of those big plastic tubs. It says mostly 6-volt filament. I haven't really looked at this yet, so I'm not sure what all's in here. Well, it's not all tubes, I'll tell you that right away. We have a huge assortment of mica caps, the old domino style. Some are used, it looks like mostly they are not. I'm kind of torn on this because there are useful values in here, and some of these go to high voltages and be kind of tough to find a modern equivalent. On the other hand, these are ancient. Ooh, and there's some Western Electric in there. People love Western Electric gear. Yeah, mica caps definitely hold up better than, say, paper caps, but they're not, they don't last forever. Bunch of nice ceramic trimmer caps. And then a whole bunch of tubes. Let's see, they're in flats. Okay, let's do them one flat at a time. Looks like we've got 2 tiers of used tubes and then some box tubes. Alright, what do we have in this one? Definitely a mixed bag and definitely some older stuff. So I take back what I said about there not being any early radio tubes. For example, this is a Xene, the 6K6G, early style, before they went it more like this. 6DN7 dual triode, I got a ton of those. I really never found much that uses them except for one TV. 6F6G, definitely use these in a bunch of radios or audio output tubes. 6G6, not that familiar with this guy. That's also got a VT's designator, meaning it was used in the military. Resembles a 6V6, I guess. Couldn't see the number and he was just going by the way it looks. Well, sometimes that's all you can do. But there are so many tricks to see the numbers. I mean, yeah, I know when you get older and your vision starts going, it's not so easy, but you know, you rub a little skin oil on there, get it in the bright LED lighting. That is a 50L6. 6S on 7, 6V6. That's an old style 6K. I mean, old style in terms of the designator, where it's got kind of both the old RCA Victor and the newer RCA Meatball logo on there. 6W6. So they definitely need to be tested, but there's a lot of good tubes in here. 6AU5, not so much. AU6s. Every TV I work on practically uses 6AU6s. 6 SK7s, good for all American 5s in the octal variety. 6 SK7. 6 SJ7, 6 SN7. I think you get the idea. It's all these 6 series of octal tubes. 6F6, 6 SK7, 6DN7, 6G6 again. 6BL7, 6SK7. Alright. I see some, right away some of them are marked as being weak. Admiral 6K6. Alright, cool. Definitely so much stuff I work on uses these tubes, but I'll have to clean them and test them. I'll test them and then clean them if they're good. Okay, next tray. Looks like more of this. Oh no, a lot more metal ones in here. This was RCA's thing back in the 30s. So here's the metal 6F6 and 6N7. So all these are metal versions of what we just looked at in the glass variety. 6SH7, another 6F6, 6SF5, and so on and so on. Can't see the number on that, but it's a Philco. 6SL7. Good. A lot of the TVs I work, a lot of the electrostatic TVs I work on use a 6SL7 for the vertical deflection plates. So I'm always looking for those. 6SQ7. So many radios use those. Single triode, dual diode. More 6F6s. All good stuff. All very good stuff. I know, again, cry me a river. I just finished sorting through all my tubes and now I have this. Okay, now for the bottom of the container. Basically more of the same, except these are presumably new old stocks. They're still in boxes. So, for example, U.S. Army Navy 6V6. It's kind of too nice to use. It's a very, very nice box. Quite common tubes, so I'd be inclined just to keep those as they are, you know, for historical. I wanted to find something that uses a 6AU5 because I've found a ton of them. I think they're horizontal output tubes or something like that for TVs, but I've never found a TV that uses them. 6V6, 6W6, 6Q7, 6. So these are these are kind of the early octal tubes. So rather than a 6SQ7, it's a 6Q7. A lot of the, oh boy, these are hard to get out. So the ones where it was set up like this so you could push it down and keep it in the box, but test the tube before you bought it. Alright, I bet a lot of you already know this, but I'm going to go through it for those of you who don't. So the total metal encased tubes, pin 1 goes to this metal. You ground it, you've got a built-in tube shield. The GTs, also pin 1 goes to this, which is just a metal collar around the base, which is still a pretty good shield because that's where the active tube elements are, and then up here is the plate, which kind of shields things too. And then there's the G-type, which doesn't have any shielding at all. And pin 1 on these, if it was designed to use these originally, they may have used as a tie point for other components. So if you're going to pop this out and stick one of these guys in, be careful. See, make sure the pin 1 is grounded or floating before you plug one of these guys in if it was designed to use one of these guys. And here is the last bin. It says octal 12 volt and higher on the top. Trust me, this will get more interesting when we get into the other specialty type of vacuum bulbs. Alright, I can already see a whole bunch of useful stuff. 12SN7s, 35L6, 50L6. Output tubes. And some triodes. 12J5 GT. A lot of good brands too. A lot of RCA, Kenrad, Sylvania. Old stuff. Stuff from the 40s and 50s. 6SG7s. 12SQ7. It's nice to see metal tubes in good shape. Often they're crummy and rusty looking. 12SJ7. On. Used, untested for the most part. J5 WGT. It's a rather neat looking one. I think the WGT means it is a like ruggedized extended use version. Notice it has a different colored base on it too. I think that's the higher quality base material. I think it's got mica in it or something like that. I've seen tube sockets made out of this stuff too. Nice stuff. And a little baby 6H6 dual diode, sort of a precursor to the 6AL5. Alright, nothing groundbreaking there, just a whole bunch of common octal tubes, but absolutely very, very useful. Next up, a little tray. These are all little guys, little tubes for the most part. A whole bunch of 6 AK5s, that's what all these are in the boxes. And more. So, party cup full of 6 AK5s. I bet those Collins radios use them or something like that. Why else would you have so many? Now, there's something different. An M362. Oh, 6DJ8. I think these might be Japanese or some type of foreign land. Tokyo Shibawara. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Toshiba. So it's a 6DJ8, but their designator must have been M3624. It was a Zenith version of the same thing. I'm not really sure what those are. Oh wait, 6DJ8. I think Tektronix scopes use these, and I think they're also desirable to the audio folks, which is why so many scopes get stripped out. Let's see, what are all these guys? 6C4s, which I believe are also rather desirable for the audio folks because they're just a nice, basic, no-nonsense triode in miniature form. They used to be in here. Man did not waste materials. An empty soup can, put some tubes in it. 6LY8 Motorola. I'm not familiar with that. I think it's a later TV tube, maybe for color TVs. SA4 power output tubes. And so on. Definitely useful, mostly TV stuff. Now this looks like a real mixed bag. I think that's the last of the main tube containers. plastic thing here. Oh yeah, I bet some of you guys want these. 6 DJ8, made in Holland, Amperex with the bugle on them. But these came out of some of his Tektronix scopes. They're dual triodes. A little plant container here. 12 AU7, 12 BZ7, 6 CY5. Just a mixed bag of all sorts of assorted radio TV tubes. More Amperex C DJ8s. I think I've seen that before. PQ or something like that on the side, and a shield. I know there's a website where you can look up all these codes and find the years and the most desirable types and whatnot. It's even got a new Vistor. What's a new Vistor, you ask? It is the ultimate in miniaturization in vacuum tube form. I think they are ceramic and metal. I don't think there's actually any glass in there. These were used in TV tuners primarily, but there were some other devices that used them. I think there might be some type of tape recorder, and some radios used them. And they used them in scopes for the front ends, because they worked at rather high frequencies and rather small. I believe Tektronix would like hand select it, go through a whole mess of them, and pick out the best ones. You can imagine they can be a little tricky to replace. 5V4, big old octal power rectifier. What are these guys? Ooh, 6080s. Also nice power output tubes used in scopes, also used in amplifiers and in power supplies. I think he had a number of power supplies that use these as the series pass regulators. We have a set of 4 of them. What else? Let's see. Well, this was a Stancor transformer at one point, but now these tubes wrapped in Excelsior. I believe that's what they call this stuff. Ooh. Nice. The man knew what tubes were valuable and took care of them. That is a 2A3 vintage output tube, audio output tube. They are worth something. Here's a closer look. I don't think I've ever owned a 2A3 before. Some 2A5s, but not 2A3s. So it's got the RCA meatball 2A3, and then if we could rotate around, Cunningham, which was bought out by RCA at some point. These are from the mid-30s. They were introduced in 35 or something like that. Here's the second one. Looks to be darn near identical. Engraving is a little bit sloppier, one on the left, but inside they look pretty close. The filament spring on top on the left there is a little goofy. Yeah, the embossing on the base is slightly different. What do I care? Because if it's a matched pair, people want that. A quad would be pretty amazing too, but there's only 3 in here. And this one's different too. Also RCA Cunningham Radiotron, but it's different. And somebody carved into the base. 2A3. Which is a shame because it's actually acid etched into the glass. No, it's not super visible, but it is there, made in USA 2A3. Oh well. They still certainly have value. And he must have known that, because they were set aside from the other tubes and wrapped up carefully. So let's get them back in that box. lot of people like these because they're old school. There's only 4 pins on this. Filament, common cathode, and then grid and plate. That is your classic triode. So for the purists, that's what they want. Let's get them all wrapped up nice and neat. And we have one compartment left in here to go through. Everything wedged in here. Go. Oh, wow. Remember when I was sorting my tubes, I pulled out some VI regulator tubes and lit them up for you guys to show you the pretty colors they can make. Well, I have another entire box more of them. Again, yeah, I know. Bad problem to have. 885, this is a Thriotron. Early scopes used this for like a relaxation sawtooth oscillator. It's for the horizontal deflection. Very simple economical way to do it. Probably be a bunch of OD3s and OC3s and OB3s. And as we discovered, the A's are arguably the prettiest of the group. The C's and D's are kind of purplish. The A's are neon based, so they're very pretty. Alright, so a whole bunch of those in here, including a bunch of the little guys. OB2s, OA2s. Alright, he definitely had equipment that used these for voltage regulators, so I'm not surprised that he has a bunch of them. I probably should have noticed the 2A3 on the top of this box. Alright, I think that is it for the basic tubes. Now let's get to some of the more interesting, exotic things. Alright, something a little different in here. We have some light bulbs. First off, I did get a couple fluorescent clamp on shop lamps, and fluorescent, and that's what these are, the fluorescent bulbs for. He had about a dozen of them in his basement, all the same. I got 2 that were in good shape. There's definitely some odd bulbs in here. Let's see. This is some solder. And most of these, I guess, are illegal now, so I better be careful. I just find myself getting arrested and my contraband seized. What am I talking about? There's a 200 watt incandescent bulb. These are verboten now. Unless they're made to be high efficiency, and I think there are wattage limitations on them now. But so why are these still useful? Well, aside from nostalgia, if you want to make a dim bulb tester that can handle a higher wattage radio or TV or some such device, you want some large wattage incandescent bulbs. You can't use fluorescent bulbs for a dim bulb tester. So a 200 watt bulb is a good thing to have. Likewise, a 150 watt bulb is a good thing to have. And since we have a fixture right over here next to us, let's give it a try with the 150. There's currently a 75 watt fluorescent in here, which after running for a couple hours is not even warm. Say what you will about them, they do use less power. This 150 watter, well, I'm sure it'd be hot enough to give me a nice burn. Ooh, yeah. Okay, within 1 second of it being plugged in, it's too hot to hold. But, yes, very, very bright, too. While that cools down, what else do we have? Let's see, a 3 watt bulb. Can be 30, 70, or 100 watts, depending on how many clicks you do on your light fixture, assuming you've got a 3-way light fixture. Let's see. Rather filthy bulb. Hard to read, but it says 150, so I think this is another 150 watt bulb. Let's see, is that cool enough to take out? Yes, it is. It's smaller, though. Alright, well, let's pop that guy in and see what we get. Yeah, 150 seems reasonable. Actually, it might have been in this box and it just slipped out. Working for you, Commonwealth Edison. Chicago, Illinois. Let's see, that guy is empty. As is this guy. But nice vintage bulb boxes. 2 snowy white light bulbs. Oh, let's see. There's one left in here. Long life, 100 watt. Average life, 2,000 hours. Nothing too special there. Let's see, it looks like this was a 3-way, a 50, 200, or 250, but the 50 and the 250 are crossed out. Does that mean this is partially burned out? Ooh, look at the base on that. I think maybe we should not mess with this. It may have been involved in some sort of meltdown incident. Look at this guy. 3-way, 3070 100. Look this bad boy. It says 300 on the box. Fat boy. Mild ultraviolet, infrared, Mazda. It says 250 watts. Alright, let's fire it up. If it even fits in here. Yeah, it will. Alright, he's ready for a suntan. Oh! Oh yeah. That'll keep your sandwich warm. Ooh. And sear your retinas too. What else? How about this guy? I don't see any markings whatsoever, so let's fire it up. It's bigger, like 30% bigger than that the earlier one that we did. What, the 200 watter? So this could be a 300 watt bulb. Ooh. Not quite as much heat as the infrared one, but a lot more visible light. And well, it's not that hot. Oh man, I'm seeing spots. Alright, well, that leaves this ridiculous bulb. This says 300 watts, Sylvania bulb service, with a rather comical character on there. It is a vacuum bulb man, I guess. Bulb upside down, they put a face on it and some chicken legs and some arms. So if that one wasn't 300, I don't know. So that's the one I just had in there, which was super crazy bright. So, but this one is labeled as 300. No markings I can see on this guy. All right, so let's fire up the largest bulb in that assortment. None of these are made anymore, to my knowledge. I'm sure you could find them used if you hunt around. It's about as bright as that earlier. It's about as bright as this guy was, which is pretty darn bright, and you can really feel the heat getting kicked out. Oof. Well, so I would never use these for lighting fixtures. It'd probably be too hot anyways, and too bright. But for a dim bulb tester, these would be very handy. Or the infrared bulb, which he may have used for exposing. Like I made photosensitive circuit boards a million years ago, and you would use kind of a mild UV or infrared bulb, I think, to expose the photosensitive material. That's the LED bulb back on. Alright, there should be at least one more box of interesting bulbs around here somewhere. Actually, there are more left than I realized. And now we're back to more conventional tubes for a moment. Bunch of 6-volt octal tubes, 6 AC7s, 6 SJ7s, 6 J5s. Very, very useful for early TV work. 6X5, I think, yep. 6Y6, 6 AC7, a lot of 6 AC7s. These metal jobbers. Early high frequency type tube. Philco used a lot of them in their early sets. They were using the pre-war TVs too. So 6H6, but it's a rather flat-topped one. Different case styling on that. Ward Super Airline. And here's what I'm used to seeing them like this, where they have a little bit of a dome on the top, but this guy is a flat top. Okay, definitely more good stuff. Stuff that needs to get tested and sorted. Miniature tubes. These are more like the industrial numbers when you got 4 digits, like 57, 63, 59, 63, 70, 58. Somewhat similar to the more commercial versions, but these I think were more geared towards long life service or something like that. And a bunch of 6J6s, 6T8s. Common tubes, very useful for all the types of things you see me work on. So far these tubes, I mean, home run. I mean, I can use almost all of these. And here's the final box of tubes, which is called Oddball Tubes. Well, I see a bunch of 6L6s, which are good old beam power audio output tubes, I think. They're beam power. And they're earliest style, I believe, being these metal guys. The RCA Radiotrons. I think these were introduced in like the mid-30s, late 30s, something like that. I guess it'd have to be late 30s, right? Some people don't care much for metal tubes. I'm somewhat indifferent. You can certainly burn yourself on them, especially with the 6L6 variety. They do get quite toasty. I like them when they're in really good shape. I think they kind of look cool, especially when the whole device uses all metal tubes. Well, that was a very timely Amazon delivery. It is a rubber mat of sorts for the workbench surface. A lot of you recommended something similar to this. A lot of great suggestions. Everything from masonite to carpeting to a rubber mat to even using adhesive floor tiling. All great suggestions. I found this one on Amazon for like 10 or 11 bucks. I think it's already cut to 2x4 or something like that. So let's give it a quick try. And then we have, I believe, one last box, which is probably the most interesting box. So for those of you who have made it this far, you will get rewarded. This reeks. Hopefully that odor will fade. It's got an interesting tactile feel. Oh man. Yeah, that is a nasty odor. Yeah, it is 2x4 exactly, so I can just plop this down right as it is. What I think I will do though is first coat the wood with a coat or two of some wipe-on poly or something, and then put this on top of that. So yeah, as you a number of you realized that I didn't, is that if we're doing tubes, it's nice to have something kind of bouncy, so they're less likely to break if I drop one. Ah, no, there are going to be 2 last boxes. This is not the box I thought it was. This has some early old school type bulbs in it. I'm a little wary of firing some of these up because they're unlabeled. I don't know what the voltage on these are. Well, this one is labeled, okay. I believe this is 115 volts. Not sure if that was where it was sealed off at the top, or doesn't look that ancient. The filament does. And I can't read that. Oh, North America 4CP115V, something like that. I don't know. And this guy, Zokul, ZOKUL. I must have thought that label was important because he put some Scotch tape over it so it wouldn't get lost. Don't think the tip has been broken on that. And the glass looks like it's hand blown or something. It's kind of ripply. And this guy, it's the same as that first one I pulled out. And this, which I'm guessing is an ultraviolet bulb with deteriorated coating. But I would think anything that's got an evacuate or seal off dipple like that is going to be pretty ancient. I don't see any bits of mercury in there though. Ah, the coating's on the outside, I think. Huh. Well, let's try this guy first. That means there's still another box somewhere. This is not what I forgot about these. I didn't realize I even had these. Okay, let's see what that guy does. Hopefully not pop. Huh. That does look like an early type of filament. Maybe this was using some type of special, warm too, special display, and they had painted the outside to make it purple. Well, let's try this little guy because it says 115 on it. Yes, a little baby light bulb. Not a whole lot of light output. Alright, well, let's try one of these guys. Kind of looks like the filament might be broken on this one. Yeah. I think there might have been 2 loops in this at one point, and one of them broke. So I don't feel too worried about firing this one up. So I think it's already damaged. Ooh, yeah. Alright. Yeah, the filament was already broken in this. You know, I can see it better. Let's see, let's compare it to this guy. This one's pretty discolored inside too. I don't think I'm going to try powering this one up until I know more about him. Same with this guy. All the same type of wiring inside. And boy, the way this looks so fragile, the way it's wired up inside there. Let's try the one that's broken again. I might be able to tap it and get it to kind of reconnect for a moment. That's assuming these are meant for this type of voltage. It's an interesting light show. Wow, any stupid lamp. I hope you guys are getting that. Basically, the filament is as making contact and then continuously making contact and then breaking apart. See if I can coax any more life out of it. It's pretty well. I think I'm going to turn that off before the bulb pops in my face. I still didn't find that box that has the coolest stuff in it, but I did find another box of tubes. Assortment here, mostly, well, a mishmash. We have some power tubes, some more 6080s new in the box, some 5V4s. I noticed these earlier. I was wondering, why does he have so many 5V4s? I know them as being the damper tubes used in some of the earliest post-war TVs. Turns out these are used for the B+ rectifier tube in the Collins receivers. That's why he has these. Some more 5881s. Actually, he's got a whole mess of 5881s. But the only thing in this box, well, not the one thing in this box that really jumped out at me are these. A pair of 6B4Gs in the box. Why do I care about 6B4Gs? They are audio output tubes from the late 30s. And specifically, they were used in the Philco 37690, top-of-the-line radio for 1937, arguably the finest radio Philco ever made. I just happen to have one, unrestored. So, always nice to find a matched pair of new old stock audio output tubes for it. But, alas, I opened up the box in my excitement and saw that this one is damaged. The base is damaged, chunk broke out. It looks like it's unused to me. So maybe just some rough handling. A little super glue could take care of that. Maybe, let's see how the other one fares. Not crazy expensive if I had to buy some, but hey, I'm not going to turn them down. This one, yeah, this one is undamaged. Pretty sure it's unused too. It's filthy, but it doesn't really show any signs of use, so that's a win there for sure. Alright, now I have to hunt around. I don't know where that box is. Finally found them. What do we have? An assortment of oddball bulbs. Some of them are just small bulbs. Well, this is a high-grade resistance device. Resistance lamp for a ring generator. Well, that might tap into something else that we're going to talk about later. A piece of test equipment where a lamp, a special lamp, was a key component. That might be what that's from. What else do we have? We have this little odd bugger. It is an NE52. A number of these are neon bulbs, some of which can just be plugged right into a wall outlet. That is the dog getting into where he shouldn't be. And some of these may very well be radioactive, slightly. They put some radioactive gas or substance in some of these to help ionize the gas more readily. I don't have a Geiger counter. I'm not too concerned, but there is the possibility. NE42. And then we have some screw-in types. 125 volts NE34, I think. Another resistance lamp for ring gen. Very good. Resistor, 1000 ohms, 44 PG, made in England. Very good GUD, so you know it's got to be good. So I guess this was some type of ballast or precision 1000 ohm resistor. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not really entirely sure about any of this stuff. Okay for resistance lamp. I'm not sure why he had so many uses for resistance lamps. There's a crazy looking thing. Sorry, I can't power up a lot of these. Well, of course, the resistance ones aren't something you power up. NE29, 125 volts, but obviously it's a bit of a different base. I think he might have... thought that might be an adapter, but no, doesn't seem like it. Don't worry, we will be firing some of these up. Just older horses. Another one of these guys. I wasn't aware they made gigantic neon bulbs, to be honest, until I saw these. I had no idea they'd screw in neon bulbs in a standard light bulb base. Alright, let's get to it. Let's fire one of these up. I don't really know what they were used for, other than giant indicators. Were these used in signs back in the day? I don't know. Alright, here we go. Yes, not incredibly bright, but there you go. I think I only have one screw-in type, so these will probably all basically look the same. It's my understanding neon bulbs strike at like 75 or 90 volts or something. Oh, is that one dead? Maybe so. So these should have some sort of current limiting device in them, in some manner. I don't know if any of these are made anymore. I'm thinking not, and these might be somewhat... Another dead one. I wonder if these need some kind of special ignition circuit. I don't know. That one fired right up. I think that might be it for the screw-in neon bulbs. We'll get to these guys in a bit. First, let's finish going through these bins. I don't recognize most of these. I don't know if they're neon or regular GE82. I know there are websites I could look all this stuff up. GE 10 watts, 60 volt. Seems like they are rather specialized. I have a whole bunch of these. I've never seen any such type device that would use something like that. A little muddy flood lamp, GE 1385. Or maybe it's a heat lamp, infrared source of some sort. Ditto for this. Or it looks like a little headlight almost. So what if oh, these might be strobe lights, like xenon strobes. Because I did get a strobe light over there, and he had one or two more. I just took one of them. I'll play around with that in a future video. Here's one of those packaging. No info, it's just kind of generic GE lamp packaging. GE 1156. And so on and so on. It looks like most of these, it's just the same, more and more and more of the same type bulb. Okay, this definitely looks like a strobe. A specialty lamp of some sort. GE 75A, 4 volts, some goo on it, no, 0.75 amps, 4 volts, strange value. And so on and so on and so on and so on. I wonder what are these cloudy ones too. GE 82AFs. The first thought they were just filthy, but no, they're made that way. It's frosted glass. Yeah, they're made out of frosted glass. Looks like a Christmas bulb, kinda. 120 volts. Alright, how about in here? So we have a bunch of this type. Maybe blown. NE32s. These are neon bulbs as well. Curious that they have a, sorry, the horrible camera work. They have a coil around a central metallic element. It's kind of a smaller version of the same thing in NE79. Here's a rather odd looking one. Boy, it's hard to read. External resistance, another specialty resistance bulb, I believe. 3,500 ohms. So I don't know. I mean, I know about early radios that where they had a resistance in the line cord. Well, of course, series string radios where they had a ballast tube in them, but not light bulbs like this. Another amusing little looking bulb. Might be another resistance bulb. That's what these all seem to be labeled as. Nelco, 120 volts, 2 CF. Resistance lamp. And finally a bunch of these, which are rather heavy, surprisingly heavy. Oh yeah, these are all resistance lamps too. Another resistance lamp. Now let's try each of these neon bulbs out. It's interesting, for something that large, it's not crazy bright. I think these neon bulbs do age a bit. Maybe the radioactivity is wearing out. I don't know. Let's see. Let's try that guy. Slightly different look. And one more. Yeah, it's a little bit different. A bit of a split target. Very cool, I think. I have no idea what these were used for. If any of you know, I don't know. Somebody might have taken some of those screw-in versions and just made, these might be like homemade, I don't know. But rather neat things to have, I think. Believe it or not, we are finally done. That is the last of the tubes and the light bulbs. I hope you have enjoyed this journey of discovery as much as I have, and if you can shed any light on these early light bulbs, these neon bulbs, these resistive bulbs, I'd very much appreciate it. Tubes I have a pretty good handle on, but these light bulbs are a bit of a mystery to me. I did have this spongy mat out for a while now, and the odor has dropped considerably. It fits perfectly on the workbench surface. That does a very nice job of cushioning this. So thank you again for all the suggestions for the workbench top. This is what I'm going to go with on this one for now. I'll include a link in the description to where I got this from. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.